On April 14th, 2019, the internet went up in flames. All because of probably one of the worst finales in record history. I mean, this was unbelievable. I could not believe how badly Game of Thrones ended. But that wasn't the only bad finale on the 14th, though.
It's gonna get a little weird, gonna get a little wild. I ain't from around here, I'm from another dimension. Gonna get a little.
Hi, my name's Sarcastic Chorus, and I'm a 23-year-old man who likes Star vs. the Forces of Evil. Yeah, get it out of your system. Call me weird, juvenile, whatever. Doesn't matter, because this is a good show. I thoroughly enjoyed Star. It's fun, imaginative, with a surprisingly complex story at times, dealing with issues that you wouldn't normally see in a kid's show. Star vs. the Forces of Evil gave us a solid 3 seasons of quality entertainment. Then the 4th season happened, and while it didn't crash and burn, it definitely sat on the side of the road and just kind of slowly melted away. While not everything about season 4 is bad, it doesn't live up to the promise of what came before. With a tedious shipping war that was prolonged just to keep Reddit engaged, Tom Star for life, and a surprisingly slow burn to the finale, not to mention the weird 180 character changes, and an ending that only gets more horrifying the more you think about it. So I decided to look through season 4 as a whole, not just the finale, and try to figure out where this season went off the rails. Okay, let's just go over the premise real quick so that everyone's on the same page. Star vs. the Forces of Evil is about a magical princess named Star from another dimension called Muni, where everything is basically bananas. Well, despite the world being magical, only the queens of the butterfly family can actually use it, thanks to a magical wand that is bestowed upon each princess on their 14th birthday. The big problem though at the start is, Star has the attention span of a cracked out squirrel and puts no thought into the consequences of her actions. After setting her kingdom on fire with flaming magical rainbows? Yeah, it's that kind of show. Star's parents ship her out to the most boring non-magical place in the multiverse, the suburbs of a small town in California. There she meets her new bestie Marco, who in the pilot is super safe nerdy kid, only for every episode after that to show him as a pretty cool if dorky straight man to Star. I don't know why they retconned his personality in the 2nd episode, but you just roll with it. These two are off having weird magical adventures while constantly being attacked by the various forces of evil, hence the name. In the beginning, this story is just your typical episodic adventure show. Each episode is self-contained with no overarching plot to speak of, and it honestly works pretty well. It's not challenging or thought-provoking, but it's enjoyable enough. Then a certain lizard pops into the picture, Toffee, the most overhyped character in the entire show. Come at me. From then on, the story takes a much more dramatic route, while still holding on to its fun, wacky tone. Star vs. starts dealing with issues of prejudice, historical revisionism, and abuse. All this culminates in a fantastic series finale in season 3. Unfortunately, the series has one more season to go, and it's the worst one yet. I'm sorry guys, I know there's some lovers of this season, but it's just not that good. And it suffers a lot of problems from the nightmare-fueled finale to a droll central conflict. Diving right in, let's go through what made this season so lukewarm. Start off, let's get this out of the way. Magic is an essential part of the show. Nothing in this series happens if they don't have magic. And for some god-awful reason, they decided, no, magic is the bad guy now. We need to get rid of it. And nothing in the series had built up to this beforehand. Like, absolutely nothing. There is no foreshadowing or possibly like, okay, maybe this is the real villain of the story. Like, no, nothing like that. The magic in the show, it's treated as chaotic, but it's ultimately benign. The number of people who use it is highly limited, so any damage magic causes is the work of individuals. Like, this was just such a massive leap in logic, especially since they already had spells that could defeat Mina. And all they needed to do to win was freeze time. then stroll up to the Solarians and slit their throats. Even if that was too dark for Disney, they could still just use the time stop to get all the monsters to safety and then come up with a better plan later. And that was just one way they could have beaten Mina. The biggest problem is just how quickly Star reaches this decision. Like, this isn't like something that's like brought up in an episode. This is a decision that's made within a scene. Within one scene, Star decides that magic has to go. Magic, I remind you, is the basis for all of the multiverse. You get rid of that, the whole multiverse society collapses. Someone was in the Magic Arcade to play games when she destroyed magic. They're trapped there forever. Any creature made of magic dies. Yes, the Magic High Commission were bad people, but did every magical creature deserve to die? Because the story is so vague with its world building, we can never know how many creatures got wiped out because of this. And this decision just fails so hard because it had none of the build-up necessary for such a dramatic choice. If over the course of the series they push the idea that magic is bad and that the world will be better off without it, then sure, make that call. But it doesn't. Hell, magic in this show is shown to be really flippin' cool. The show tries to make it so Toffee was secretly right all along, but that makes no sense, because it was never stated that Toffee wanted to destroy magic. Destroying magic to Toffee was just a means to an end. He wanted to depower the butterflies and force them to give him back his finger. They tried to retcon the story to support their decision because they knew the story as it was didn't lead to this conclusion. And unfortunately, this lack of cohesion in the story is present throughout Season 4. And the focus is just all over the place. Season 4 is easily the most unfocused of all the seasons. There is no single goal to focus the plot on. Going into Season 4, the biggest mystery was the disappearance of Star's mom, Queen Moon, who vanished in the Season 3 finale. But this plot gets resolved in the first 2 episodes. After that, the audience has no idea where the story is going. The only nominal goal we have is that Star wants to end racism. That's right, the rest of the season is about humans learning to accept monsters, so that they'll then accept Eclipsa as their queen. Season 4's main plot is just one massive PR campaign. This is a terrible main story because it doesn't create any sense of urgency. Sure, changing human-monster relations is important, but there's no ticking time bomb here. If Star fails, then the humans and monsters just won't get along. That's it. Making this whole thing feel even less urgent is the fact that in the show they show us that the kids of the monsters and humans seem to be on their way to not being idiot racists like their parents. There's no real need to be pushing this issue in such a rushed manner. With the right public relations and integration, racism will be solved. Only in this fictional world. Real life is way harder. This story could work if we had a greater emotional connection to the normal population. Unfortunately, the humans are the worst characters in the story. That's right, they're worse than the talking horse, who will not be named. This is the biggest failing of Season 4. Outside of a few characters, we are given no human character to latch onto. The humans behave like children, expecting their queen to do everything for them and immediately complain when things change. They're also steadfast racists who hate monsters and anyone who is not like them, even though their royal family are in fact human mutants that could be classified as monsters. A bunch of racist, hypocritical freeloaders, and that is all the development they are given. The entire plot of Season 4 is dedicated to winning over these cornholes, and I couldn't care less. Ludo had the right idea, levitatoing all humans into the sky. At the beginning of Season 4, we are all invested into the main characters. Making the focus of the story about winning the approval of racist strawmen isn't going to interest the audience. Nothing in the show convinced me that humans deserve sympathy. The one family of disenfranchised humans we meet are portrayed as irritating idiots. I don't sympathize with these people. In fact, by the end of that episode, I was glad they lost their house. Because screw them. Thematically, it made sense to expand the idea of tolerance to ending racism in the kingdom as a whole. But the humans are so unlikable, we don't care about them. They're just racist strawmans that are just trying to teach us a lesson. And when they finally do overcome their racism, they were so over the top beforehand that it comes off as unbelievable. The writers of this show are super talented, and they do a lot of things right. But unfortunately, while they are fantastic at writing pairs, they just never know what to do with their supporting cast. Which is sad because I think that the greatest strength of Star Versus is its ability to generate character chemistry. It doesn't matter who they are, if you get a scene where it's one-on-one, you will have a great time. It's this stellar writing that led to literally every character being paired romantically by the fandom. Also why people are so willing to ride or die for their ships. Tom Star for life! Even minor characters are given a chance to shine when it stays one-on-one. Now, I don't know what happens to the writing, but you throw in a third or fourth character into the mix and things start to get dicey. It just never feels as natural. The extra person just weighs down the scene, and we just want them gone. The most egregious example being Janna and the horse who will not be named in this video, because even a name drop is more attention than they deserve. This inability to juggle the larger cast results in most of the supporting characters falling to the wayside after they've fulfilled whatever plot essential function they were created for. This results in a large cast of disposable characters that we don't care for. And the humans are just a large disposable cast of extras who are now front and center of the plot. Even if you look past the humans though, the other main focus of the story isn't even interested in the main story. Eclipsa isn't a good queen. She's queen because Star made her queen, but Eclipsa doesn't care about the job. She spends a whole season trying to free Globgor and only does queen stuff when Star pushes her to. The 16-year-old is more responsible than the 320-year-old woman. Eclipsa is a good but selfish person. She only cares about her family and friends. And the only reason she wants humans to accept monsters is that so she can free her husband Globgor without causing a panic. While it's touched on lightly, the show never makes us forget where her real focus is. And I can't blame her. The Mewans are awful and she would be way better off just exiling the lot of them. Because Eclipsa isn't interested in Muni, Star has to force her to do things. If one of the main characters doesn't care about the story, it just tells the audience to check out too. This is a show about princesses and magic, yet the magical princess of the show is stuck leading a PR campaign rather than going off and having real magical adventures. The magical setting now feels mundane, so we just can't get invested in it anymore. I think this was a problem that came from moving the setting from Earth to Muni in Season 3. It's a juxtaposition thing. On Earth, all the crazy magical adventures seemed awesome when compared to the average human world. But when they moved to Muni, where magic is just a part of life, it just lost some of its magic. Muni is itself just your stereotypical fantasy setting. All the cool, crazy, magical stuff happens in other dimensions. The Ab dimension should have its own spin-off. Because the story now is more Muni focused, we don't get the same freedom to just dimension hop like they used to. Even worse, the characters themselves just kind of stop being hyped for anything. Marco, our former straight man, has become an adventure-obsessed blood knight. He's also mentally 27 now. Unless it's a 30-foot monster, it really isn't worth him getting out of bed for. Our audience surrogate, who is supposed to reflect how we, the audience, would react, is now no longer our surrogate. In fact, the one character we identify with the most isn't Marco. It's Star, who is frustrated by all the racist, bureaucratic stuff and just wants to break loose and go have fun. Just like the audience. Even when the story gets breaks from the Muni storyline, the whole show grinds to a halt so that we can have shipping episodes. Oh my god, the shipping filler. Okay. Okay, let me get mentally ready for this one. You all knew this was coming. All you filthy animals, you and your ships, your memes, your incessant bickering, you all knew this was coming. Starco. All my cards on the table here. I was a Tom Star fan myself. It felt like a more genuine teenage relationship of the bunch, with all the messy misunderstandings and arguments that came with it. But, and this is a big but, I always knew that Star and Marco were going to get together. It's like the Earth and the Moon. These two were just bound to end up together, and we all knew it from episode 1. Which is why it's so frustrating to watch them drag out their relationship for a season longer than it needed to be. Instead of Star and Marco being together, we got Star being a bad girlfriend to Tom, Marco got together with Kelly, only to have them break up, off screen, between episodes, like cheese and rice. This was so bad, I couldn't enjoy when they finally got together. Star goes from crying like this to this within a few hours. Hours, people. The resolution is so quick that I don't understand why Star even bothered staying with Tom. They should have broken up at the beginning of season 4. Then we could have Star and Marco have an actual relationship on screen. But nope, we have Star ignoring Tom for a season before he gets fed up with it and breaks up with her. This felt like an executive decision that stayed Star would be unlikable if she broke up with Tom to get with Marco. They had to build up Tom to be the one to do it. But all this doesn't compare to the wasted potential of the Blood Moon curse. This could have been fascinating. Curse that forced Star and Marco to get together regardless of their personal feelings. Could have been a subversion of the main characters always ending up together and how the universe bends over backwards to get them there. What we had instead was Marco being lovesick, and then we're told that it's the Blood Moon curse's fault. Except it wasn't. He was in love with her regardless, making the Blood Moon curse pointless. Just a red herring to make us think Starco wouldn't happen. Here's what the curse should have been. Rather than creating a sense of longing between two people, it should have been actively trying to force them together. Or more importantly, actively trying to force them apart from anyone else. This could have been set up to where Marco and Kelly are trying to date, but strange accidents keep happening that ruin their dates or forces them apart. With the same thing happening to Tom and Star. By making it an actual threat to other people, the Blood Moon curse becomes an actual threat, and it adds to the drama. It also changes the choice that Star and Marco have to make drastically. Rather than making Marco feel better, it becomes a sacrifice that the two are making for their respective partners. But that's just me. For how long the creators dangled the Blood Moon in front of us, we should have gotten a better payoff than this. Though I should be happy they even bothered to set up anything at all in season 4, because there is a serious lack of payoff or even setup. Mina Loveberry is the chief antagonist of season 4, who is secretly backed by the Magic High Commission, who are secretly backed by Queen Moon. Yeah, this was by far the worst executed twist in the series. Not because I'm against Moon being a villain, but it comes out of nowhere, and it doesn't even last. Moon is a villain for precisely 5 minutes. She betrays Star and Eclipsa, gets the wand, but then Mina has her own plans, and Moon is back to being on Star and Eclipse's side. This was a twist just for having a cliffhanger at the end of the episode. It adds nothing, and if you cut it out, you wouldn't miss anything. Now, I could almost stomach this twist if Moon had a reason for her actions. Some concrete drive that pushed her to betray Eclipsa and Star. But the only reason we have is that Moon doesn't trust Eclipsa, which she totally did back in season 3. Moon says she blames Eclipsa for getting blasted by Meteora. But even that reason is downplayed by Moon earlier, and she doesn't seem that bitter about the whole thing. But sure, say that we believe Moon is pissed that Eclipsa blindsided her, protecting Meteora. Eclipsa tried to kill her own daughter in order to save Star. From that alone, Moon should see that Eclipsa isn't a bad person and is willing to ride or die for her. She's a bad ruler, but untrustworthy? No. They could have made it more believable if they played up Moon just doing it out of racism towards the monsters, or a desire to protect humans that Eclipsa has disenfranchised, or a combination of all of it. The writers failed to give Moon a compelling reason to turn against her own family. But even worse, she couldn't even stick to the decision. When the chips are down, Moon immediately teams up with Eclipsa again. Moon could have been a good villain if written properly. But instead, we get Make Muni Great Again Mina. Mina with her Solarian army is intimidating. Even if the ridiculous power of the army makes me question how they didn't wipe out all monsters off of the face of Muni already. The scene of Mina meeting Solaria for the first time was by far my favorite part of the finale, because you got everything you needed out of that 2 minutes. To Mina, Solaria was a paragon of strength and nobility. All the other humans were busy being useless, so Solaria raised up Mina to defend their people. Even 300 years later, everything Mina does is to live up to that trust that Solaria put in her. This is a good story and a good character. It's the last remnant of a racist past that refuses to go quietly. Problem is though, Mina, with the exception of the finale, doesn't really do anything. All she does is rebuild her battle armor and send poisoned fruits to Eclipsa. They don't show us why Mina is such a threat. We don't get any chance to see how dangerous she is. Yeah, Mina could wipe the floor with Star, but she also got one-shot by Meteora, who got wrecked by Eclipsa. The soaring algorithm of evil tells me she shouldn't be a problem then. Instead, they kept playing the funny crazy lady card and made every other character in the story just keep telling us how dangerous she is, giving us no reason to see it. While they don't give us any reason to think that she is a major threat. Mina doesn't affect the story until the end. So until the finale, we don't have a real main villain in season 4, making this unfocused season feel even less focused, as it lacked a main antagonist. If Mina was a more visible presence in the story, the first half wouldn't have felt so directionless. But instead, they kept her in the background to make room for stuff like this.
I'm baby Marco, and I got wheels for hands!
Why?
Even when she finally gets involved in the finale, she's never taken seriously. When Star jumps to destroying magic, Mina isn't even the main threat. It's the Dark Mill Horse, which also only shows up at the last minute without any real foreshadowing. Mina is relegated to the background as she fights the Dark Horse, and because the story couldn't handle the idea of separating Star and Marco, they decided to give us a horror movie ending. And yes, this is a horror story ending. The worlds of Muni and Earth are fused together. And while the denizens of Echo Creek have some familiarity with magic, thanks to Star, the rest of the world doesn't. They're just going to wake up one day and find out that Earth has merged with Muni, and will have absolutely no idea what's going on. Forget human-monster relations, humans are going to be shooting monsters dead on sight. How are the governments going to react when huge parts of their land are now filled with kingdoms that operate on their own sense of autonomy? There's no way the worlds merging together will not create chaos. How do these people even integrate? How do they start to register who's sentient monster and who's just a beast? Is there new diseases that will be introduced that will wipe out both populations? Absolutely anything is on the table, and yes, this is Disney, so nothing horrifying will ever happen, but everything about this decision spells doom for everyone involved. But yeah, it was cute to see Marco and Star get their happy ending, but they pretty much threw both the worlds into the blender to get it. One final thing I want to talk about is how Star vs. the Forces of Evil handles race and deeper messages. Now, for a lot of people, the show's decision to tackle more difficult themes marked a rise in quality for the story. While I agree with this for the most part, it also feels important to not make it out to be deeper than it actually is. While there are messages about tolerance and the effect of racism has on society, it'd be more accurate to say that these ideas are present, but not fully explored. I call this the window shopping of ideas. Because the show will present an idea, pointing it out and making a comment about it, most likely about how bad it is, but then the story just kind of moves on from there. It won't expand any further. Humans are racist, and that's it. No mention of why they're like this or how it came to be. Now, not every story has to be a deep dive into the human condition or a grand epic where every action the hero takes has massive repercussions. No, Star vs. doesn't have to be any of these things. I enjoy Star vs. I enjoyed every season, even the fourth, but still doesn't excuse the fact that season 4 is by far the weakest. This is brought on by the show just not being able to choose what it wants to be. It couldn't grow into the deep think piece that its main plot wanted it to be, and its episodic nature failed because every episode was just set up for a payoff that just didn't feel earned. I think the show used its best material and ideas in season 3. I truly believe that. If it wasn't for the disappearance of Moon, I don't think there would have been any reason to continue the story from there. I think the strongest episode of season 4 were the ones that stood on their own. Mariposa and Meteora's adventures in the Abdimension were both touching and exciting, showcasing all the parts that made Star vs. the Forces of Evil great. From great character interactions to over-the-top locales, everything just felt right. If season 4 was just episodes like this, with some big final battle to end it all, I would have been happy. As it is though, the finale was average. From Star vs. the Forces of Evil though, I want something magical. Okay guys, thank you all for watching. It's been a real pleasure making this video. I know I'm pretty late on this one, but this has just been something that's kind of been eating at me for the longest time, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll make a video out of it. If you'd be so kind, please like, share, and subscribe. I keep hearing that you have to turn on the notification button for some reason, so do that at your whim. Hope you all have a wonderful time, and stay magical, friends.